What could possibly force 9 experienced survivalists to tear open their own tent and run blindly into a deadly, freezing snowstorm, half-dressed? To understand the sheer impossibility of that scene, we have to go back to the Soviet Union in 1959. The hikers who entered the remote Ural Mountains held the highest level of certification for winter expeditions. They were prepared, experienced, and embarking on what should have been a standard trek. They knew exactly how to survive sub-zero temperatures. Their eventual disappearance and the bizarre crime scene they left behind completely defied logic. When searchers finally tracked their route to a desolate, wind-swept pass, they found a camp completely abandoned. The forensic evidence immediately ruled out an ordinary storm. The canvas of their shelter hadn't been shredded by the wind. It was slashed open from the inside. The hikers hadn't been dragged out into the lethal cold. Something inside that tent triggered absolute, blinding panic, and they cut their own way out. Search teams eventually recovered all 9 bodies, scattered far down the mountain slope and completely separated from their only source of shelter. Yet, in weather cold enough to kill in minutes, several survivalists were found missing their boots and thick coats, lying in the snow half naked. Then came the autopsies. This diagram highlights massive internal trauma, crushed ribs and fractured skulls, yet the skin showed no external marks. The kinetic energy required to snap bones like that without surface marks equals a high-speed car crash. A simple fall cannot generate that force. To solve what happened at Dyatlov Pass, any scientific theory has to account for 2 deeply incompatible facts: the desperate, immediate urge to escape the tent, and this extreme, localized blunt force trauma. Looking at the physical environment, the leading scientific explanation points to a highly specific, rare threat: a delayed slab avalanche. This 3D cross-section illustrates how a slab avalanche acts differently than a wave of loose powder. A heavy, rigid block of compacted snow can silently detach from the slope and slide directly onto a tent, instantly crushing one side. In the pitch-black dead of night, the sudden fracture of that massive ice block creates a terrifying acoustic illusion. To the hikers inside, the sudden, deafening crack would sound exactly like the entire mountain was collapsing on top of them. The immense weight of that rigid snow block easily explains the car crash-level internal injuries. The immediate threat of being buried alive perfectly explains why they used knives to violently escape their own shelter. This leads to the most disturbing piece of physical evidence: the decision by these experts to discard their clothing while freezing to death. This flowchart illustrates paradoxical undressing, a symptom of late-stage hypothermia. A core temperature drop causes the brain to misfire. As muscles fail, warm blood floods the skin. This agonizing, burning sensation drives a freezing victim into delirium, stripping off gear to cool down. These grim biological realities often compete with persistent Cold War conspiracy theories, pointing to secretive military testing in the region as the true culprit. Conspiracies naturally thrive in the dark gaps of a story, but the factual combination of a sudden, crushing avalanche and the delirious effects of severe hypothermia provides the most complete answer to the physical evidence. Modern science gives us the mechanics of their deaths, yet the exact minute-by-minute sequence of that pitch-black night remains a heavily debated mystery. It forces us to think about the intense psychological terror those 9 friends endured, pushed out of their shelter, and forced to walk blindly into a freezing abyss. The conditions at Dyatlov Pass illustrate how nature's lethality can eventually override even the strongest human survival instincts. The incident remains a documentation of what happens when environmental pressure exceeds the capacity of human technology and experience. You're watching Untold Indian Stories. Like, share, and subscribe to uncover the hard facts behind more of history's dark